Oh, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday morning public meeting of the BOCC. If you want to rise and follow me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, Okay. As usual, I'll ask Commissioner Mortensen to review the minutes for us.
And as usual, I say good morning, everybody. It's nice to see you. And I did review the minutes of the activities last week, and I moved to approve those minutes.
Any discussion on the minutes? See none, I better get. Just checking, make sure I see no hands. Okay. Okay. We call for the vote. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Thank you. Consent agenda today. We have a few items we'll run through on here. We'll have three different call for hearings. The first one will be a hearing June 13th at 10 a.m. It's for an amendment to Calais County Code addressing charges for unauthorized connections and use of water. The second one will be a hearing set for June 23rd or 6th, 2023. This is a call for hearing for extending the interim official controls relating to the surface mining established in 2021. The controls will stay in place. I know staff is working on that, and hopefully this is the last time we need to extend that. We're looking for some permanent language for that, and that's being worked on. The third one will be a call for hearing on June 13th, 2023. Where you have a chance to look over a proposed county code for establishing compost procurement. I can say that easily. Policy. State of Washington is trying to get methane producing stuff out of the landfills. And so there's a new statute in place that we're trying to comply with, where when we do projects, we're supposed to use composted stuff. And so you get a chance to see that policy. I think they've done well, I'll let you should show up and take a look at that one, because they've done a really good job just trying to keep it within the county. But as all state things happen, you know, that'll bleed down to you guys at some point in time. So you should educate yourself on it. Agreements, contracts, and bids. We have we awarded $1,450 to the Friends of Castle Rock Library through our ARPA funds. There's a agreement with PPC Solutions, Phoenix Security. They do courier services for us, and it's extend the agreement for one additional year and increase the price by 6.2%. That was all built into the original contract, that the CPI would be the amount of the price increase. So that's where that 6.2 comes in, brings the total amount to $12,514.68. We have easement agreement approval with Weyerhaeuser Timber Holdings. This is it provides 4 different evacuation routes from the landfill. It's a deal that we worked out. It's for a period of 2 years, and you can see for $10 consideration. And then a perpetual right-of-way easement for WestRock to dedicate 11,000 square feet right-of-way over property owned by Three Rivers Regional Wastewater. This is basically in WestRock, when they're building that new plant out there, they need a little space for truck traffic, so they're not sit on the road, if I remember how it was explained right. And so they've come to an agreement with Three Rivers Regional Wastewater, but the right-of-way agreement has to be between the county and Three Rivers. WestRock will construct it, pay for the construction of it. Once it's constructed, the county takes it over and maintains it. And then under board correspondence, we appointed Julia Starr to the Yale Valley Library District Trustee, and we appointed Tony Englund to the Silver Lake Watershed Advisory Council. Vouchers in the amount of $2,622,582.75. That was a mouthful. You guys have anybody have any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I do have some questions on item number 7, the easement with WestRock and the Three Rivers. I'd like us to look at that separately.
Pull that up and put it over in
Yes,
motion
please.
side?
Yeah.
You okay with that? Okay, we'll do that.
That's actually the question I was going to have on WestRock. So should I wait until?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the consent agenda? I see no hands. I'd entertain a motion to approve it, less item 7, which we'll move over to motion items.
I move approval of the consent agenda, except for item 7.
Last chance for questions. Okay, I would call for a vote. Those in favor signify by aye.
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 I also vote aye. Motion items, let's go right into
Item number 7.
item number 7.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm a little confused at the explanation on an easement. It's 11,000 square feet. So that's a chunk of property. And it's for a right turn lane to assist access into the box plant. I'm not sure where the connection is. And I've got a map that is up on the screen. The goldenrod marking typically represents the city limits. That's also the boundaries of the sewer operating board, the Three Rivers Wastewater Treatment Facility. Fibre Way terminates inside that lot of property. But I could not tell from the documents provided where this 11,000 square feet is and how this alignment would assist in a right turn lane for the box plant, because the box plant is on the other side, same off the map, off the lower right-hand corner of the map. And I don't, Patrick, I thought I saw you online. Patrick's on our engineering staff. Can you explain where this 11,000 square foot easement's going?
I can do the best of my ability. In the map shown on the screen, the right turn lane would cross about where the word Santa Fe is located. So it's on the south side of Fibre Way,
Okay.
just west of their existing entrance.
Okay, so why, but that's not their property that you're describing, right?
Correct. The property between WestRock's property and the county right-of-way is owned by Three Rivers Regional Wastewater Authority. WestRock has worked with them to dedicate a right-of-way to the county, since Three Rivers does not maintain any public roads or anything like that.
Right.
And the document in the consent that we're discussing today, Three Rivers has signed off on that right-of-way to give to the county.
So it's along the portion of Fibre Way that's within this goldenrod triangle, if you can see that, or goldenrod lot line.
So the county portion is to the left. So it's in the county portion that Fibre Way is in. Yes.
So I'm assuming Fibre Way is paying the sewer operating board for this easement that they're turning over to us?
Yes,
All right. That was not clear in the explanation, so.
I apologize.
And the purpose is to get trucks off the road.
Correct. Their new entrance will cross multiple railroad tracks, all that serve WestRock. But if there's a train crossing, trucks will end up queuing, and we want them to get a queue outside of the main travel lane so that vehicles that go to Three Rivers or the other entrance for Fibre Way aren't clogging, are able to get by and just enter where they need to.
Any other questions?
I don't know if anybody else has any questions. That answer your question? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move we approve, oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, oh darn, the map went away. I'm just really curious about where that's at. I've had to go into fiber for years with a big truck and, you know, their traffic patterns there are really not good. And so I'm just curious, where exactly are you turning into fiber there? They usually get you in. Can I get a little closer and look? Is that all right?
Sure.
Or maybe you could zoom it up.
Wait, Patrick explained it, it's right in here.
Cause I know they got a gate back there, they got like a main entrance gate, they got a kind of exit gate. And so is they gonna start turning into that entrance or the exit gate? Is that gonna become the entrance gate?
No, so the new box plant is there's nothing where the new box plant is now. It's just open ground. They've already broke ground on the box plant. So this entrance will be a brand new entrance for the facility.
Oh, okay, all right,
They will utilize the same exit though.
all right. I'm just curious about that. Thank you.
Okay. I see no hands, nobody approaching. I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve item number 7 from the consent agenda, the perpetual right-of-way easement.
Last call for questions. Seeing none, I would call for a vote. Those in favor with aye.
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 I also vote aye. Passes. Next motion item, Lakeside Industry, Public Works. This is a joint overlay pavement project. And it's a authorization for Public Works Director to approve change orders up to 10% of the original contract amount. Original contract amount is $2,031,000. It's up to 10%. There's further language when you read the whole thing that it's not to exceed 25,000 for the total of all change orders. So there's a cap. It's 10%, but then there's a cap, and I don't know if there's any questions on it, but it seems pretty reasonable. Any comments, questions? Okay, I see none. I would ask for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the bid award as you have described.
Last call. See no hands, no questions. I would call for a vote. Those in favor with aye.
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 I also vote aye. Motion passes. Any give you a little update from nothing really items from last week, but just an item that caught my interest and we talked about as a Board of Commissioners yesterday, and I reached out on it yesterday also. I go to the council meetings, those that go to them have seen me there. Reason for that is to just hear what cities are dealing with and and what's going on. And last week I was at Kelso. And they had a presentation, and I don't remember the group, but they did a presentation on a senior housing project they're working on. And if I remember the numbers right, and I could be off, but I think it's around 40 units. And it piqued some interest in me. So we had a discussion yesterday in one of our workshops if the BOCC board had an interest in learning more about that project, and we did. And so I reached out to the city manager, and he was out, but I'll touch base with him again today. He called back, and they do have an interest in, and we'll try and coordinate something with the people that are kind of putting this together and have a workshop on it, so you all get a chance to look at it too. But I think it's a project we could look at and see how the county can be involved and help with that. So just giving you an update. There's more to come on that. Anything else that you guys wanted to bring up before we open this up?
I would just support what you just said. You know, we do want to use the dock recording fees in a manner that is constructive.
Yeah.
And there's a comment now. It looks like the revenue from dock recording fees is going down substantially. You might want to let them know.
And I also let Castle Rock, I was at their meeting last night, and let them know, because we learned yesterday that recording fees are going down because real estate activity, obviously with the rising rates and whatnot, has decreased some. But the state has allocated to the counties funds to try and make up what's being lost. And Calais County was allocated, I'm giving you rough numbers here, I'm not giving you to the penny stuff, about $257,000 in additional to add to the dock recording fees over 2 years. So it's a little over 100,000 per year. And the purpose of the state is to keep that fund kind of where it's at. So just so you're aware, we have that coming in.
I'll do some more advertising on that. We've been pretty careful about how we spend the dock recording fees, because it was pretty evident that in a downturn, bad things can happen. And we have intended to use the funding for the capital only, not for the ongoing expenses.
Yeah. Okay. We will open it up to public comment on items of concern, or what you have. Gonna let us off easy today, are you? What? Our agenda seems to have changed. Ken?
So I have to let you guys know I'm speaking as a citizen and not a council member. I get my hand slapped every time I don't say that. I just want to thank you guys for taking a second look, or a look at all at the West Main project. I think it's a worthy project. It is about 40 to 45, depending on the design.
Good.
The design is not complete, but it does start as a community center on the base floor, which should help the city of Kelso with some of our reoccurring expenses. We're looking at potentially getting our library out of the mall, or some sort of community engagement center. And then the top floors are going to be 40 units of low-income housing. So it's a really good project, in my opinion, that is worth looking at. So I just want to thank you guys and for taking a look at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
A question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea what kind of a model you plan to have? Like, I'm thinking Campus Towers is a model where 55 and older, I believe, is the limit on that. And everybody has to pay something. that's different than some of the other housing that's subsidized. What kind of a, what is the picture you have?
That hasn't been made clear to me. We did partner with Lower Columbia CAP. We went out to a public, I don't know if it was technically an RFP, but we went out to the public to ask for people who were interested in managing the facility or managing the low-income housing. And I believe they were the one agency that responded. And so, you know, the city of Kelso is not in the housing management business. So having somebody to manage it for us was important. But I don't know about the model per se.
You've got a Kelso Housing Authority, right?
Correct.
That they're not interested in,
I don't believe they even responded to the public.
interesting.
Yes.
Because if I look around, I think Housewood does a very good job. I like everything I see on it. I haven't looked at the balance sheet exactly because it's not really necessary. I know that tenants have obligations to fulfill in order to maintain their housing, and I think that's a good thing. Campus Towers is slightly different than that, and I wouldn't want to see our money go for something that doesn't really address the seniors. If it's, we've got enough welfare programs around and recovery programs. We don't have senior housing, and I'm speaking just for myself.
And it's very possible that I'm incorrect. So I could, you know, I'll let Mr. Hamilton give that presentation, but from my understanding, we also partnered with CAP to help us with funding. It's about an $18 million project. So it's not a small feat. In the initial projection, it looked like state and federal funding were going to pay for the majority of it. As to what percentage of it, I don't know, but
Yeah. 18 million doesn't buy you very much these days.
Correct.
Or 40, what's the one that Haas was working on out by the hill? That's about 40, and isn't that upwards of 60?
60?
I don't think it's that high.
It's
But-
somewhere, it's higher.
Those numbers are astounding to me, but then just
Yeah.
for an exercise, I go out and do some of the shopping occasionally, and I am horrified.
Anyway, I will be interested to take a look. I agree with Commissioner Mortensen and I told the city of Castro last night, you guys know I'm way more interested in senior housing than I am the camps.
Yep.
Yeah.
This design is not a camp, but it
Yeah.
is still in design phase, so we don't really know exact uses. In my personal opinion, I would like to push for some family units in there. I think we see a lot of single bedroom kind of studio style apartments when we look at these projects, but and that really doesn't address family housing. You know, there's a significant portion of our homeless community that lives in cars, you know, women and children. So having a place for them to put their heads is equally as important.
See,
So-
you're starting to make me a little nervous because most people, it's seniors are typically defined as 55 and over. So when you say family there, I'm thinking, I have kids, so I understand kids and all that. I'm thinking a husband and a wife or something like that, but I don't think a child under the age of 55, well, you know what I'm saying? Children, this is a senior housing, not for people with young children. That does change the profile substantially.
And we discussed not just not just seniors. This is three floors and 40-ish units. So the scope, from my understanding, was not specific to seniors, but we were going to, again, it's in the design phase, and we're talking about 3 floors of a project. So it sounded like a large portion of that was going to be set aside for seniors, but that still doesn't address. I did quite a bit of work on a student homeless housing project. And there was 5 or 6 18-year-old students in the Kelso School District that were sleeping in tents. So, we have a whole gamut of people that are homeless. And we're not talking about the people that we are, that are in your face, that are, destroying the city of Longview right now. We're talking about people that probably should be housed. So how do we address a broad range of people that should be housed? And so that's what I'm talking about is the single mother with children that is sleeping in a car trying to get her kids through school, not 55 and older specifically.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be much more focused on 55 and older kind of a community. There are programs abounding on the other ones, and so I'll be a lot less interested. Mixed mode stuff sounds good, but for seniors, very often it's pretty intimidating to have people who aren't in the same stage of life, if you will. It's not a category thing, but it's something that I'm concerned about.
Well, thank you.
It'll be good to look at, I have to be honest with you, I tend to gravitate towards the seniors a little bit too, because there's not as many services for them. We had a gal come in here and spoke to us and the troubles that she's being inflated right out of her unit. And it's causes concern because there's not a support system out there as much for them as the families you're talking about.
Yep.
And I agree, we need to help those families. I'm just probably a little more concerned with the.
I watched that presentation.
Yeah.
What was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago? It was,
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Appreciate your time.
Good morning. My name's Scott Olson, and I would have to say I'm in agreement with what Brother Harvey, or Keenan Harvey said about the city not being managers of property. That's not what government does or should do, in my opinion. We get it organized and put it together. The brunt or the push of this project is for that affordable housing. And it isn't restricted to any group particularly now, but I would say there are communities that are just seniors 55 and up. And then that should be restricted to that because that's how they're set up and that's how they're rented and people come to that because of that. I also, being in that category, realize there's a lot of seniors that wouldn't mind some kids around. They in fact would probably enjoy that interaction because it would bring back some of the memories and things when they were younger. They also might want to participate in programs. So I don't think I would limit it initially. And again, if it is then set up and says, look, seniors, we've got a deal for you, but we're also going to maybe house families and maybe we're going to have some kids here, so that's how it is. They can choose. I don't think we have to dictate again, specifically what that's going to look like, or you have to fit this mold in order to be here, or whatever. I think there'll be some parameters on it, but I just don't think we have to get all wound up quite yet.
Yeah.
On things. It's nice to have opinions or thoughts, and that's what we're doing. That's a great thing. The other thing I wanted to talk about is a great concern to me, and it seems like, again, I see on your 11 o'clock agenda, maybe we're going to talk about some of this, but I still see the root of some of our problems in the county and in both cities and Castle Rock and you name it, is mental health issues. You know, and again, it's working at having some solution to some of that and something that moves the needle, I guess, that they get out of the funk that they're in and the mental illness that they're in and their whole situation. Some kind of transition that puts them on a road of recovery. You know, and I don't know that we have a clear path to that, whether, and it goes even to sentencing in courts and having some of whether they, what are we sentencing them to? I lived in Arizona for a while with that sheriff down there that had a work gang, and he dressed the prisoners in pink. Remember that, pink underwear? But they set up tents, and those guys worked on projects that were needed in the county where they were at. You know, again, I'm not saying that's a solution per se, but I think there are things that we could do. You mentioned, I think it was in the last meeting, about there's an area there where work was being done that used to be taken care of by prisoners. You know, when COVID came, that went away, but I didn't hear anything being said about reinstating that and putting to work against some of these people, because I think there's great value in being able to work physically. And there's the camaraderie that goes along with it, but there's just a natural fact that you benefit from doing something and being able to say, we helped with that, we did that, or to start getting some pride. But back to what I started there with is mental health is a concern, and it's such a big project, and that's a big word because there's all kinds of it out there. There's that is inherent in their families, or it's in the choices that they make. Irregardless of what it is, it's a problem that we have, and I know that you guys know that. It's how do we do something with it? And I don't think we have to be the lone wolf here. I think we can look around at other counties and other cities and see what's been done and what's been successful. You know, I hear about stories from time to time where people are returned back to work. I mean, I think of one a few years back, there was this community that put the homeless to work cleaning up the very problem that they were creating that needed to be cleaned up. You know, and they actually hired the homeless to do this, so they had some income above just subsistence, you know, and they were able to move to that next level and rent a place and again, to feel like you have something, feel like you're of worth. And then I think you can begin to build upon that and maybe understand some of that mental health help that they're being given to them and do something with it and move forward. Enough said. You know, appreciate you guys.
Okay, so I see, as I've been going around and I've been involved here, I see things in a different way, you know, and it's just like you raise your awareness and you start looking at things in a whole different light. And what I've been noticing is the roads. I drive all over the place, and now I'm just kind of like everywhere I go now, it's like, dang, man, the roads are in really bad shape. And we talk about spending millions and millions of dollars and on other things, but really government's job is roads. Should be like the number 1, 2 thing. And I've been doing a little unofficial survey here going around on the county roads. Now, city of Longview and the county, you know, we've got a bunch of roads here that are over 100 years old. And the fact is, they're all starting to collapse at the same time. And we've been blessed in a way that whenever they did this work long ago, they did a pretty good job and things have held up to this point. But you can see now that it's being demonstrated physically out in the road system is that these things are starting to fall apart. And really, we spend so much time talking about other subjects, but we don't spend hardly any time, not enough, in working at our roads. And our roads are in bad shape. And just in culverts. Now, I don't know how many culverts we have, but you see like Tower Road, perfect example, another one over there on Mount Pleasant. You know, how many more of these things do we have to run through before we just start, getting a program going with replacing culverts? Just that basic thing right there. I don't know, is Susan on there? I see her name up there.
Well,
Curious about,
we just approved 3 culvert projects last week.
yeah, 3. How many culverts do we have in the county though?
Well, we have a ton, and I know that they have a schedule for those. But I don't have a printing press here
Uh-huh.
to pay for all that. So
Yeah.
we do. I think she does a pretty good job of trying to.
Yeah, I
get
wasn't
funds
trying to
from
give her a
other
good,
areas.
I wasn't trying to give her a hard time. I was just wanting to ask, about how many culverts we might have and general conditions of those things. I always be,
So Tim, one of the things to look for, to ask about is the 6-year road plan.
uh-huh,
So we do a lot of planning and identify quite a few. I mean, it's a huge list. So our county road department is very much aware of the condition of a lot of the roads and everywhere. And it's a combination of, do they qualify for state assistance or federal assistance, or like Tower Road, it's all on our nickel.
yeah,
And then how's the best way to prioritize the projects? When one of the projects is out on one of the culvert projects is out on a very remote area of the county. It crosses Eric Creek where it goes into Abernathy Creek. But nobody lives out there. So that's kind of low on the priority. It's slowly
Right.
made its way up. So those are a lot of the challenges that we're facing is, so we have the 6-year plan and we have a hearing probably twice a year to go over the 6-year plan. And we have the public hearings so that we can hear from folks like you who have a different viewpoint, and you can inform
yeah,
the projects and the locations. Many of the ones that you've identified are probably on that 6-year plan.
sure. I wasn't trying to pick up a certain thing. I'm just saying overall, the roads are in really bad shape, and we spend a lot of effort and time talking about a lot of other things. But to me, I mean, this is government's actual job, is to provide infrastructure. And I'm not trying, I didn't come up here to give you guys a hard time. I'm just saying, man, we're behind the ball on this because previous administrations haven't done anything. And this is county stuff, but you go around Longview, you imagine, those roads, how old they are, and they're not even built that well, and they've held up. You know what I mean? We've been lucky that way, that they've lasted as long as they have. And I don't want to get into Longview roads, but county roads are the same conditions. We got to, set high priorities for, I feel like we're probably going to have to do more than 2 or 3 culverts a year to really get ahead of the program here. And it's really, I'm just kind of opinion, but I wouldn't mind to hear a little more information about, just where we're at. However, it sounds like I'm gonna have to wait for the 6-year plan meeting, so I'll watch for that one to come up.
Or stop by and they'll give you, it's printed out, so they can give you a copy of it.
Oh, and
It was about almost 20 pages, isn't it?
all right, good. I can do a little bit of a deep
Yeah,
dive. So if their office is the one over there by Dairy Queen, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
Dairy Queen area. Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, hold on a second. Yeah, I think basically you should come away with this thinking that we spend about the same amount in the general fund as we do in the public works, primarily on the roads. And from my perspective, I'm pretty happy with most of the maintenance I see on the roads. There are some areas where there is slippage, And that constantly needs to be maintained in some way. And then there are the things like we built stuff over the dredge spoils or the ash and tower being one. Anyhow, those are semi acts of God, semi. And then, but in terms of real danger, I'm appalled at the condition of the freeways. If I hit a chuck hole, which there are some on the freeway now, at 70 miles an hour and I blow a tire, I'm probably going to hurt some people.
Yeah.
So the risk versus stakes there is much higher on the freeway. So I would be complaining to WashDOT saying, come on, guys. And just recently, I don't know if you've noticed how just the garbage is building up along the freeways.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
you-
the America we used to know.
You know, that's state roads though, you know, and I just kind of want to say, you know, we can have like, all kinds of stuff going on, but if you can't get there, I heard a statement somebody told me this last week and I thought it was pretty good. Your car has to be roadworthy to be legal to drive on the road. But the roads don't seem to have to be car worthy and for them to be there. And it's like, I thought that was a little interesting little statement, but I'm sure the roads thing is going to go on and on here, so I won't use up any more of your time.
Wondering who's in charge of planting the trees on the sidewalks in all these housing projects? Because we've been going around doing some surveys of how citizens feel. And we've been in a lot of areas where the sidewalks are not even safe for a wheelchair and for the elderly to go walking. And one man that I talked to, they had planted a tree and the roots actually grew towards his house and in the process upended the sidewalk. So they came and cut the tree down. They didn't take it out. They tree stump, you know, just did over the stump. And then he was responsible for replacing that sidewalk and it tore his front yard up and he was responsible for totally replanting it, getting a professional in there to cut the roots out. And so in that particular project, it looked like they had cut all the trees down. But are the sidewalks part of our infrastructure and who's responsible for some of the really, really poor conditions that handicapped people can't even get out and safely use a wheelchair, let alone walk, because they're going to stumble because some of the high sidewalks are higher than other parts. So who is responsible for that? I mean, is it federal, state, county?
Well, if it's in the city, you know, the city is, and if it's in the county, we probably do the repair on the sidewalks. How they get planted, my guess is, I don't know that we have county employees running around planting, but I think when a development gets done, a developer probably puts them in and right now we're in discussion to take all the trees down around the Hall of Justice because of that kind of issue. And I know those issues raise up. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think when they put those in, we had issued out in Lexington. I think the gentleman we had a sidewalk issue that we were looking at. So,
Oh, in that case, he didn't have a sidewalk.
oh, he didn't have one in that case.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in answer to your question, Elaine, if it's county, then we're responsible for those.
Yeah, I mean, you know, all the trees are beautiful. I mean, it really makes everything look nicer. But when the roots start uprooting the sidewalks and actually grow into their yards, you know, maybe could look at a different kind of little tree instead of big
yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any others?
My name is Tracy Stoner, and I loved what you had to say about giving people that, you know, maybe down on their luck, a job to do. And my husband and I just took this long trip. We drove across the country, up and over, saw all these beautiful states, and we get to Washington, and it's such a travesty because this is such a gorgeous state. But there's so much trash. It's just trashed. And there's so many homeless because there's so many handouts to them. And I strongly feel that, and I don't know how much pull you guys have, you know, but I just would like to say that I think that they do need responsibility, and those that are completely, you know, insane, because there are a lot of those. I don't know what the answer is, you know, but they do need responsibility instead of just handouts and, you know, drug testing. If they're going to get these programs that are given to them, not to just be people that are, you know, sitting around getting high and just don't want responsibility, because there's a lot of that going on. So anyways, my 2 cents.
If I could comment, or
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, and how you get people out and doing the work stuff. I don't personally know the nuts and bolts, all that. I'll certainly look into it, because when I hear stuff that I don't know, I think you've been around long enough that I'll find the answer to it and explain how that works. But I don't disagree with you. Aren't?
yeah, this ties me back to an earlier speaker. There are a lot of problems, and our hands are tied in lots of areas. I can't help but note that it wasn't that long ago, maybe half a year ago, when I remember the numbers of the job openings that weren't being filled was into like 10 million to 14 million jobs across the United States. And I've talked to some business owners, and they couldn't stay open the hours they would like to stay open because they didn't have enough employees. So it's not like we have to go and do convict kind of labor or something like that to realize that there's some other problem. And that ties into the mental health situation. I think the United States has spent tens of billions of dollars trying to solve this problem, and they're continuing to come up with one scheme after another. The ITA, involuntary, that's when they can say, we're going to put you in the hospital and you have no choice. It requires a judge's decision. I just saw an article that is trying to soften that a little bit, so the judges will be more inclined to force you to take some sort of medication or treatment. What I'm driving at is that we are pursuing solutions in a way that is, I think, jeopardizing society. We don't have answers to this, but certainly, as the lady before spoke, handouts are probably a source of the problem. And indeed, if I'm going to give someone $1 to paint my house, I'm going to want to choose the paint and that kind of stuff. And if we're going to give people handouts, we ought to be able to choose a little there. So I'm done. Sorry.
I'm just starting. Comment on Tracy. I've taken several trips across country, and I can tell how close I am to home by the amount of trash along the road. As you drive east from the state of Washington, by the time you cross the Cascades, things are starting to look pretty good. All the way through the Midwest and in the east, things look good as far as how the highways look and how the lawns are mowed and upkeep and everything else. And when you come across the Cascades, you know you're home from all the garbage along the road. So, yeah, good observation. I'd also like to comment on what Scott had to say. Steve Farrell gave me a book about a week ago. It was called The Failure of American Compassion. And I'm probably 2/3 of the way through this book. And at some point, I'm going to give, probably Steve and I will make a gift to each one of you and many officials, because this book goes back and talks about how our society used to deal with what we now call homeless and all the varieties of it. If you go back, the churches were the foundation pretty much. It was one individual, a volunteer working with one individual with a problem. And they were taught to pay very close attention to the word discernment. When you're talking with an individual, a big part of that evaluation is to figure out which category they really fall into. So fast forward to the 60s, when, in my estimation, the whole country started to fall apart. The homeless industrial complex. We talk about the industrial complex. Well, the homeless industrial complex came into play. The churches were basically, and voluntarily, by the way, the mainstream churches voluntarily went along with the concept of going to not an individual, but treating the whole class as a whole. And it could only be cured by giving them free stuff. And so, you know, in my mind, I'd always thought that the churches were the last bastion. Well, they were one of the primary ones that gave in to the crap that we're dealing with now. So now you've got woke churches, you got all these kind of people that are just running around giving stuff to people. And as predicted in this book, which I'm going to give to you, you will see the results, because we're living the results right now. And until we figure out how to get back to figuring out, you know, the homeless, you know, we think that it's just one big class. Well, I'm no genius, but once I toured Camp Alabama one time, I figured out there's whole kinds of different classes of people in here. That's not all one thing that all needed to be treated the same way. You had mental health people. You had people who were just plain crazy. You had people, quite frankly, that were bad people just taking advantage of the whole situation and actually making it worse. And here we are as a society. We still haven't figured this out. Oh, American compassion. Is compassion giving stuff away to everybody? Or is compassion really finding the people that need the help and giving them right help? And we need to figure out how to get back to that. And I think when I give you a copy of this book and you read it, you will begin to understand what's happened, and it'll give you some idea of the things we can do to reverse it. So I'm 2/3 of the way through the book, but I'm highly recommending at this point, and I'll have more information probably next week.
Larry, who's the author?
Pardon me.
Who's the author?
I don't remember that, Dennis. It wasn't a name that I would remember, but I'll take a picture of it and send it to you if you'd like it.
There's a columnist by the name of Chris Rufo that has touched on those very same things.
Yeah.
Talking about how we have a misguided set of compassion
Yes.
in trying to address these
Yeah,
problems.
compassion is actually, in many cases, forcing people to do what's right, not just allowing, continuing to enable them to make the wrong choices.
But as you mentioned, the homeless industrial complex are the foundations and the charities that make money from government grants
I
to
know.
quote, solve
So
homelessness.
we have 7 pages of those people in this county.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, when you look at laws, I think something stands out, which is if laws are incompatible with human nature, you've got a problem. And that'll continue to accelerate as you decide that human nature is in error and you've got to fix this program, and you end up fix upon fix. I alluded to the ITA issue, and now they're trying to soften it up. The judges can take hold of your life without throwing you in jail. Well, the fundamental violation of human nature in here, in these laws of the government compassion, is that government has no money at all that it doesn't take from people. So there's a fundamental immorality in that. And that leads to two things. You're actually inhumane to the recipients of this blind granting of freebies. You actually debase them. And that's an interesting fact of life. We have decided that the solution to everything is the dollar, yet we know that suicides are always have been on the increase. And certainly if you take a look across Hollywood, young suicides are not unusual. And they have all the money at all that they could want. However, what they don't have is a self-respect of earning a livelihood, because everybody says, we'll take care of you. It's free money. And teen suicide is probably in that basket also. It's very seldom you'll meet a kid that grew up on a farm that has any of these problems, because they live for their chores and vice versa. And one of the tricks government does all the time, has been mentioned, is the division of the classes. I mean, what are we going to do about the left-handed piccolo players from South Africa? I mean, that's a crisis there. We're really going to have to help them out. And you multiply that out, and we end up with the mess we have here. Now we're in an election season now. Keep these things in mind during election season. Appreciate your indulgence.
Yeah. This afternoon, we have at 1:30, every so often we have liaison reports. So we'll have Health and Human Services Environmental Health, the Museum, Public Defense, the Event Center, Noxious Weeds, and the WSU Extension. So that might be interesting for some of you folks. Tomorrow in our 1:30 work session, we have the first group coming in. We're talking about the mental health task, prosecutor's office and Office of Public Defense. We'll have CAP and the Meals on Wheels and the CDBG Public Services Grant. So those might be things that you're interested in hearing and getting educated on. So just some upcoming stuff for this week.
If I may, I'd like to accentuate the discussions that we're holding for the people to see about the mental health tax, and that's on Wednesday, June the 7th. We're doing some. Are we doing some this week also?
Yeah, we're this week we have prosecutor's office and Office of Public Defense tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
And then on the 31st, well, 31st, it's Office of Financial Management, and on June 7th, we start again with some more of them.
And we will be facing a decision. This is one of the taxes, a mental health tax, which is really a behavioral health tax, is something we have to decide whether we're going to reinstitute it, and it's 0.1%. It might seem insignificant, but there are two parts to it, the part that hits you the pocketbook and the part that is misused. And we will try and figure out, are we using those funds adequately? And if we're not, and you don't want to pay the tax, you need to communicate to us you don't want to pay that tax, or you do want to pay that tax. That tax expires
End of this year.
end of this year. Yeah, so we have a little bit of time to decide whether we are going to extend it or not. We fortunately put an expiration date, a sunset clause in it. And I think we would probably continue to do a sunset clause even if we renew the tax.
I mentioned last week, and I'll mention again because I think it was a great addition to the sheet that shows the weekly calendar. Kelly has started adding upcoming events in there. And we're trying real hard as a board to get departments and things in here so you can get a flavor of what they do. And so far they've been good about getting signed on. I know we're working with juvenile services and we'll get them on a date. And so just pay attention to that. We're trying to keep you informed of what's coming up.
And don't forget, we have a Wednesday evening session.
Second Wednesday of June.
I got to look it up.
Yeah.
I count on the clerk of the board trying to keep me straight.
Yeah. Okay. I see no hands. I see. What else? I appreciate everybody's attendance and participating in the system. We will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.